The meeting is being audio recorded. Please identify yourself before speaking. We will start a roll call of the Finance Audit Committee members. Jerry Abrahams.
Present.
Tim Hodges.
Present.
Catherine McKinnon.
Here.
George Perez. Franklin Perry.
Present.
Sarah Sanders.
Here.
Jared Smith. Glenda and Thames. Okay, so we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, right? Okay. So Tim, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. We will begin the meeting, and I guess we officially began at 9:04. Is that correct, Azim?
Yes.
Okay, great. I do not have the agenda in front of me, so why don't you let me know what's next on?
Sure. So this morning we do not have any action item for the committee to act. We only have our monthly reports for the committee's review. The first item on the agenda is our monthly financial report. So I will turn it to Allison.
Good morning, everybody. Before you are the June monthly financial reports. Mortgage loan and investment interest revenue are coming in $6.3 million below budget for the 6 months ended June 30th and $8.4 million lower than the prior year. Revenue shortfalls continue to be driven by the reduction in single-family loan production. Single-family originations are down by approximately $94 million, and prepayments are up by $32 million compared to the same 6-month time period last year. This results in a reduction in our single-family loan portfolio of about $126 million. On the expense side, bond interest expense is below budget by $6.2 million and is $1.9 million lower than prior year. Besides the amortization acceleration of the bond premiums from the March redemptions, the authority issued $75 million less in bonds in May than we had originally planned. Administrative expenses are coming in $3.6 million under budget and $825,000 less than prior year. Excluding salaries and benefits of $12.3 million, current year-to-date expenses are $676,000 lower than the prior year administrative expense. Are there any questions?
Hi, this is George.
Yep.
Go ahead, Catherine, you go first.
Hi, okay, this is Kathleen. I can guess why there's fewer new mortgages, but what is driving the increase in prepayment? Is it just reduced interest rates, refinancing?
John, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, there is a much larger increase in the number of payoffs as a result of refinancing.
Okay.
And our current production isn't quite keeping up with the level of refinancing. You know, typically our production is ahead of refinancing or payoffs in general for whatever reason by anywhere from 25% to 50%. But you know, currently our production is less than refinancing or payoffs.
Thanks.
And then Sherry, do you want to add a bit on the market? I know that you want to on some of it.
Yeah, actually, by the time my report comes, we really won't have anything to say. But basically, we are seeing a lot of movement in the home buying market right now, surprisingly. There are a lot of people moving in from other states, both Massachusetts and New York, apparently. So a lot of our first-time home buyers may be trading up, and besides just refinancing, a lot of them are also going into other homes because this is a great time to buy right now. strangely enough. If you have a job and things are good financially for you, there's a lot of good deals out there. Interest rates are low. So people are actually, the real estate market is moving pretty quickly right now, especially in the under $600,000 range, which we fall into. So some of these prepayments are based on that, but it's hard to find inventory-wise homes in the CHFA price range. So it's easy for our first-time home buyers to trade up, but it's a little harder for people to find that first-time home in that under, say, 250 range. Our average home price is about $180,000, $190,000. So that's kind of a tough house to buy. Right now, the GDP numbers just came out today. You'll see, so that may have a big effect on some of this home buying, that people may kind of start pulling back a little on that because the numbers were pretty grim this morning. But that's what most economists are saying right now, is that GDP number was from the second quarter, and that will hopefully be our worst quarter, and we have better days ahead of us. So they're expecting the third quarter to be a lot better. So we'll see what happens in the next couple months.
Hey, Sherry,
Yep.
Thank you for that. With respect to the in-migration, is that spread evenly around the state, or is that concentrated in any particular counties? Do you have insight into that?
We're obviously seeing a lot in Fairfield County, but we're seeing a lot along the whole shoreline. They're coming a lot of people are taking the opportunity to buy that house on the beach that they can work from, even if they work in New York. I think people are going a little further afield, because if they feel like they could telecommute for the rest of their, career, they don't necessarily have to be as close to New York as they used to be. So we're seeing some in Hartford, even, places like Talon County are saying people who want to live really outside of that city environment and want to be in the woods or the beach, or it seems to be people are congregating outside of urban areas, and that's what the flight is to right now.
Thank you.
So definitely Fairfield County is the hot spot right now, but we're definitely seeing it in all kinds. It goes probably up to Litchfield County too. So it's going up, it's going east.
Any other questions?
I have a question that is not related to is related to the report, but not to this particular topic. I read an article yesterday. I forget how I got it. I forget if it was one of the articles that you guys sent to me, or which source. But it talked about the rating that Moody gave the agency in anticipation of the upcoming bond sale. And it talked about that we were going to use all the bonds proceeds within so many days and so forth. But the report said that we didn't use, I forget what it was, the amount, 70 million, 90 million of the first bond sale. Do we have to report that to somebody, or no? If we do a bond sale and we don't use all the proceeds because of the current circumstances, right? How does that impact? Demar, how does that?
Yeah, no, every rating agency, they have their what they call template in terms of how they would like to explain the transaction. In our situation, we did price a bond on Tuesday. That is the 2020 Series C bond that the board approved the previous month. So this particular transaction, when it closes on August 13th, the proceeds, a bunch of the proceeds will be used to redeem the short-term bond that we issued back in May, which was the short-term bond for the, to provide us with some proceeds as we were dealing with the market during the whole COVID-related. So as the way Moody's was explaining it was, we issued the 75 million back in May, and that money was to provide us with some proceeds to buy single-family loans. And as we use that money, we were also working with a long-term strategy so that we are able to take care of that short-term bond. So as they were trying to articulate how all the funds work, the whole idea is we issue short-term money in May, we issue long-term money in August, and the proceeds from the long-term money will pay off the short-term money. So that's essentially what Moody's was trying to say. But I think the way they were trying to explain it was how much we have used so far from the short-term money, and then what's going to happen to those money as the proceeds are being used to call the prior bonds.
Listen, the article was actually very positive and very good, and I agree with your summary of it, except that, again, my memory may be failing me, and it'll be surprising because it's not that long ago, right, that I read it, but the article led you to believe that we made the representation that we're going to use 100% of the proceeds, right? So my question is, and this is not a judgment call, this is us, I want to know what happens, right? So the article made it sound that the whole proceeds were going to be used. That's why we represented it to them, right? In the event that we don't use all the proceeds because the market has changed on us, right? And no fault of anybody, right? That's because of COVID-19. What happens? Do we have to go back and let them know? Do we, what's the, is there any impact or no? We simply pay off the bonds early, or we keep it and the next series is smaller.
Yeah, no, in that particular example, that the way you describe it, if in an event we don't use all the money, then we will use the proceeds, any unused proceeds, to call out the bonds, because if not, you'll be paying interest for no reason.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I want to know what the...
Do our bonds have an excess proceeds call, or?
Yes.
Okay, so then from a disclosure matter, the fact that we're somewhat covered in that the bond documents provide for the event we don't spend the money, which we've had every intention of spending money, then the excess proceeds are applied to call the bonds.
Yeah, no, I think the interesting thing about this particular transaction that we did back in May was we went out and told everybody that this is a short-term strategy because we were unable, I wouldn't say we were unable, we were not willing to pay a high interest rate during April, because during that period of time, there was this concern by investors that there was so much risk, so much uncertainty about the housing market. So if you try to sell bonds during that period of time, you do need to pay top dollars. So what we did was we engaged with and spoke with a sophisticated investor, where we essentially said we were going to only sell a bond that has a maturity of 1 year, with the understanding that we are also concurrently working and plan to issue long-term bonds to take out that short-term bond.
I think Jerry worded it better than I did.
Yeah, so there is language in the bond documents about if in an event we don't use the money, yes, there's sufficient disclosure about a excess proceed call.
No, and I expected that would be the case. That's very typical. But my question really was there any requirement for us to go back to investors / rating agencies and report anything, right?
We told them that.
Because we read the article really makes you think that the whole proceeds is going to be used. Yeah.
Right, like I said, the Moody's, S&P, when you read their stuff, they do have certain boilerplate, and sometimes they try to fit everything into this peg hole, and from time to time we will argue with them.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Any other questions? Okay, why don't we move on to delinquency and forbearance reports? John?
Good morning. For the month of June, the authority purchased 91 single-family mortgages for a total balance of $16.7 million, of which 76 of those loans with a balance of $13.6 million were secured by 83.5% of production. The remaining 15 loans, the balance of $3.1 million, were our whole loans. The average loan size for the whole portfolio was $183,000 production. The June month-end mortgage-backed security balance was $2.45 billion, which was a reduction month over month of $7.8 million. Our whole loan portfolio declined by 58 loans, or $9.3 million in loan balance, with a remaining portfolio balance of $1.6 billion. Our delinquency rate for single family declined by 24 basis points to 2.07%, and our carrying balance for loans in foreclosure decreased year over year by $11.1 million to a balance of $36.4 million, with the number of loans in foreclosure declining by 87. For the month of June, the authority also funded 57 down payment assistant mortgages with a balance of $357,000 and an average loan balance of $6,300. And 63% of the CHFA's June borrowers took advantage of the down payment assistance program in purchasing their home. With regard to single family forbearances, we had 1,580 borrowers request forbearance on their May payment, which represented $1.2 million of principal and interest payments on a principal balance of $198 million. There's one important thing to note, though. Of those 1,580 borrowers, 42% of them made their May payments, even though they had been granted forbearance on that payment. For the month of June, we saw a leveling off of the month-to-month increases we've been seeing in forbearances. The forbearances from May to June only increased by 67 loans for a total of 1,647 loans in forbearance, representing $1.3 million in principal and monthly principal interest payments on mortgage balance of $206 million, which is about 11.7% of our total single-family portfolio. For multifamily, for the month of June, the authority closed 2 new loans for a net gain of 1 loan, 547 loans with a portfolio balance of $1.24 billion. Our delinquency fronts for multifamily, our permanent loan delinquencies increased by 3 to 10, and our construction loan delinquencies remained level at 1. And for forbearances for multifamily, we had 24, since the forbearance program was offered to the multifamily borrowers, we've had 24 requests for forbearance, of which 18 have either withdrawn their request or been denied. The remaining 6 projects have either signed forbearance agreements or in the process of signing forbearance agreements, representing $76,000 in monthly P&I payments and a balance of $13.5 million of loan, or 1.1% of our total portfolio. Any questions?
Hey, John, it's Tim, and I forgive me. I just want to make sure I understand. So if I kind of look at, so 2 questions. One is in terms of the forbearance projects, there are a number that are on here that withdrawn. What's the rationale for withdrawing these?
You'll Tim probably hear more about this in the main board meeting, but in general, most of the projects, we offering the payment terms for that period of forbearance, say it's 3 months. Repayment terms are that it be repaid in 12 months. And so some projects are electing to just take the money out of reserves as opposed to have it a higher P&I obligation for the next 12 months.
Okay. Yep.
Go ahead. That's it.
Okay. And then secondly, again, I'm going by memory here. If I look at last month, we had performing loans at like 88%, somewhere around there. And this month it's 82. And then we had the loans in forbearance go from basically double. Is that accurate?
Yeah, actually, from April to May, from March to April, they nearly doubled. And from April to May, they nearly doubled. I think both months they went up between 750 to 780, both those months. And then from May to June, they went up 67.
Okay.
So they're definitely
So what's
tapering
our
off.
expectation? I mean, this is a period where there's lots of money out there, right? Where people are getting more money. What's our expectation going into the year?
In terms of repayment of that forbearance money, or in terms of additional forbearances?
Additional forbearances and potentially, right? I guess in terms of repayment as well.
Right.
And then our performing loans, we went from 88 from 82 in a fairly short period of time. What's the expectation, for 2020?
Yeah, my expectation is, as you know, Connecticut's fared far better with the resurgence of COVID-19 than many other states. It's one of the better performing states. So the impact of our local economy, my assumption would be more or less stable, but Sherry could address that better. So my expectation is to see the slowdown we saw in these past 2 months continue. I think the thrust of what we experienced has occurred. And again, unless we go back to shutting down aspects of the economy, reversing what we've done so far, my expectation is we would continue at a slower pace.
Okay.
This is
Thank you.
Kathy. Would you anticipate that if the $600 unemployment insurance payment goes away, will you see a spike in delinquency or forbearance? And is there a way to predict what that might be?
It might be. There's no way to predict what it might be, but it might be part of the explanation of why 42% of the May borrowers made their May payment. I do think a lot of people who asked for forbearance did it as a precautionary measure. They may have incurred a reduction in hours, or a co-borrower may have lost their job. But we're finding, and it isn't just here in Connecticut, but the state HFAs across the country have all realized the same thing, where there's a fairly large percentage of forbearance borrowers still making their payment when they can.
And also, there may not be a $600 unemployment supplement, but there will be something. Or there may be a higher, or there may be a number closer to 600, but the income guidelines will start playing a role.
Right.
We don't know yet exactly what Congress is going to do, but the good news is that it appears there'll be something, right? So it's not like, right, that there will be no assistance at all.
I think though Kathy is probably right that we haven't actually seen, because of the $600 being around, we haven't seen the full effects of renters not being able to pay their rent yet, because they haven't covered. So for people who have permanently lost their jobs because certain places may not be able to open up again, we may start seeing people not be able to pay their rent and higher evictions. But a lot of our properties will be able to fill those places, and the property will be okay. I think there will be an effect on the renters.
Okay, that's helpful.
And also, I know it's too new, but because the program has only been around for a couple of weeks, but we did come up with a program with the Department of Housing around to help us renters. So just curious if there's any preliminary numbers, but probably it's too soon to have any numbers.
It would be.
It'll be nice to get something on that in future meetings.
Yeah, I think that was my
impacting our financials,
Yeah.
I think that was my point, which is to have we done kind of a worst case scenario, so that we can understand the possibility in terms of what happens toward the end of the year.
I think in one of the reports, didn't it say that you had something like 1,900 calls to both homeowners and renters the first day, right?
But that could be increased. People want to know what the program is to see if they qualify. That doesn't necessarily mean that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. The next is investment and swap reports. Ed?
Good morning. You have in your package the investment report for the second quarter of 2020. The investment report reflects a decrease in investments of about 82 million from March 31 to a total of 3.21 billion. The decrease is mainly due to paying May debt service and redeeming outstanding bonds. Quarter over quarter, the weighted yield to maturity for the investment portfolio went down to 2.31% from 2.41% due to a decrease in short-term rates. You also have in your package a report on the authority swap portfolio. The swaps are used to hedge variable rate bonds to generate a synthetic fixed rate bond that has a lower cost to the authority than a traditional fixed rate bond. The swap report shows a hedging position of 39 swaps with 9 counterparties, totaling 970 million notional amount. The outstanding notional is 63 million higher than the last quarter due to a new swap entered into May to hedge the 2020 Series B variable rate bonds that were issued on May 12th, less any of the May swap amortization. The number of swap counterparties remained the same. The weighted pay rate by the authority went down to 3.135% from 3.281%, and the mark-to-market value increased slightly to a negative 219.8 million from a negative 221.1 million. The weighted pay rate gives an indication of the weighted average rate the authority pays in outstanding notional swaps. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions, comments? Okay. Ed, thank you for that report. The monthly tracking report, Sherry?
Well, there's not much else to say. There was no multifamily activity this month, and we've already sort of talked about single family, but I'll be happy to take any other questions you have on our programs or what's going on.
Any questions from anyone?
I would just like to confirm or to make sure I understood right. And I heard what you said, and it's similar to what I'm hearing from the banks. But basically, if it's a large city like New Haven, and there may be some small exceptions to this, Bridgeport, Hartford, we don't see the same activity as we see in some of the surrounding Fairfield towns or the shoreline, right?
Right. I think a city like New Haven does have some, people aren't looking to go to more urban congested areas, but New Haven is unique in that it has some cultural things that people would like to go to. So
and also
it may
the Yale University, that's why I say there's some exceptions.
Right. Yeah, there may be some uptick in a place like New Haven, but I don't think you're going to see it in Bridgeport. I don't think you're going to see it in Hartford. But I've heard a lot of activity is happening in the like Milford, some of the surrounding.
Right, East Haven, but the water.
Yeah, East Haven, West Haven, even. As you go like further to the east, Madison is seeing a lot of activity. Clinton, Guilford, all those towns are seeing a lot of activity. And it's I think from somebody coming from New York, it's a great time to buy your beach house. And then if you ever decide to go back to New York at some point, you can always go back, but now you have your beach house.
Right. No, the reason I ask is it's just to make the point without trying to make the point, which is that our larger, heavily densely populated cities, based on our standards, right, not based on New York,
Yeah.
Are not benefiting in the way that some of that smaller, more traditional, attractive cities are. That's all.
Absolutely, yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I think the last item on the agenda are the minutes of last month, so I will entertain a motion to consider.
Move it.
Anyone? Okay, second.
Move.
Second.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Any comments, questions, additions to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, Azim, it sounds like there's no one opposed, so I think you got everyone there. No need to do a roll call. The minutes are passed. Anything else, Azim, that we should cover today? It's not on the agenda.
No, not at all.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments from anyone else? Great. Well, thank you all. Did Jared did you actually join, or did anyone else join while we were talking?
I do not see anybody else.
Well, I joined a little late, but it's obvious. I know that.
Hey, George, we can see you.
Oh, wow, I pressed the wrong button.
Well, thank you, everyone. I will, a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.